Welcome to another episode of One on One with Miss Lafon. Joining me this week from Jack Russell's Great White, it is singer Jack Russell. We get caught up on everything going on in his world, including new music and a book coming out soon. And on the flip side, the second part of the show, we have got Blues Hall of Famer Joe Louis Walker talking about Everybody Wants a Piece, his new album. And we look back at some of the work he's done in the past with Jimi Hendrix, John Lee Hooker, and others. So without further ado, let's get started with the one, the only, the voice of Great White, Jack Russell. We are speaking with the great singer Jack Russell of, or formerly of, I guess I should say, Great White. Pleasure to speak with you, Jack.
Nice speaking with you, and the correct moniker would be Jack Russell, singer for Jack Russell's Great White.
There you go. That's the best way to do it. So let's get caught up on that first. You have a single called Hard Habit that's coming off of an album called The Gauntlet. When is that going to see the light of day in terms of the full album?
We haven't actually set a date yet. It's going to be soon. The record's, it's almost finished. We've taken our time with it, and we're making sure we spend the same amount of time and effort in the mixing process, And like I said, we've just been taking our time. I just want to have the best album we can put out. So hopefully, before the end of the year, if not by like October, probably January.
Right.
I don't want to release it at Christmas, or January. I'm sorry, it'll probably be like October or February.
Right, because sort of December and January are death.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Didn't used to be, but everything's changed so much.
Is it going to be a band album, or do you see it more as a solo album and invite on different bass players, different drummers? How do you view the project?
No, it's a band album, absolutely. Me and my guitarist have done most of the writing, but yeah, it's definitely a band record. I want it to have that sound. I don't want it to be just a mixed bag of tunes. I want it to have a cohesiveness.
Right. In terms of sonically, though, is it something where you want to go back to the classic Great White sound of the 80s that you're known for? Or are you thinking, okay, I can do this and discover new grounds at this point?
I think it's a little bit of both, really. To me, the stuff sounds, heavier in some regards and maybe a little more whimsical in some. It's a really powerful record. I've just dumped, every emotion I have into it, and it's just let me dry. I went pretty deep on a lot of stuff, and there's some dark stuff on there, but there's some dark realities. But it's also a fun record too. It's not like it's all here's a big ball of negativity. I don't want to go down that route, but it's just an honest record, and I try to do that. I try to keep my records honest.
So let's talk about some of the dark stuff. Your health has been an issue over the last few years. How are you doing physically at this moment?
I'm actually great. I'm really good. I've been running around. Every year I get better. My bones are healing up. I haven't had a problem with that. I've been running around on stage. I didn't realize I could run until like the other day. I was like, okay. Then we had a big long ego ramp on one of the shows you did. So I said, okay, let's give this a shot. And I was like, all right, worked. I didn't fall after all. So it was cool.
Has it been a long road back? Because, the story with Great White was you got injured and you asked to take some time off for surgery or to recuperate, and the band moved on from you. So that stuff is all healed up and you're good to go. Oh,
yeah. Actually, we've been playing now since when this all went down. Our first show was back in 2012. We've been touring constantly.
So let me ask you about that, because you have been touring constantly, and it has been without new music and without a new album, and it sort of speaks to the fact that you have a brand name and you can fill up a bar with your name and the classic hits. What's the urgency to actually make new music and have the Gauntlet come out?
Well, there's always new music in me, and it's like if you don't release it, it's just going to fester in there. I mean, for me, being a musician is about, being creative and making the music and continuing to strive for something more. It's like, you could be an artist, right? And you can just have a gallery with a bunch of paintings in them, but one of these days, those paintings are going to either be all sold or people are going to get tired of coming in and looking at them. I mean, I
Right.
want to keep, releasing songs and music because that's what I do. I mean, you never know what's going to happen in this business. I mean, the way the record sales are these days or aren't these days, but there's always a shot. You never know, and the thing is, you don't take the shot, you'll never hit the target. I mean, so I never discount anything. I always think anything's possible. And for me, the shows we're doing good sized shows. I mean, it's not just all bars. We do a lot of bigger shows, and when we do, we tear them up. This band is smoking, and I've never played with more gifted musicians and just full of energy and life and fun and all the old. There's no baggage and there's no um, secrets and hatreds and all this other stuff. And I'm just, it's great to not be in that situation. Where there's
Right.
a lot of, just a lot of negativity from, years of stuff not being said. You know.
Well, in fact, let me ask you about some of that negativity. After you and the other bandmates from the other Great White went your separate ways, there was a lawsuit. It got pretty acrimonious. Is that something at this point that you've been able to get past and just say, hey, forget it, Mark, forget it, Michael, let's move on, or is that something that stays with you and you think, screw those guys?
You know what? I don't even really think about them because I'm too busy working on my own stuff. But I mean, from what I understand, they're not letting it go. I keep hearing stuff from people. It's like, don't tell me that stuff. I really don't care. There's always something being said on the internet or say. So it's like, I wish everybody would just do what we decided to do in court. Let's split the name and everybody go out and have fun and make their own music and not sit there and just dwell on what happened. It's like, if you're not happy, let's make a change. You know what I mean? And if you are, just go play your music and have fun. Let me play mine and have fun,
Right.
or hours and have fun. It doesn't matter, I just want to keep playing and singing as long as I can. This is what God put me here, and, I enjoy what I do. I think I'm pretty good at it, my voice is still in great shape, and my body's getting in better shape. So, it's been a lot easier to do my job, and I'm sober and not putting anything bad into my body. So consequently, it's treating me well, everything's golden on my side of the bridge. I just try to be positive and think of good stuff, Not every day is, a great day, and, it is, but I try to just, keep peace with the world.
Yeah, I certainly know how that is today. I'm battling off allergies as I'm trying to talk to you, and I took some Benadryl that's slowly putting me to sleep, unfortunately. So I know exactly what that's all about. So let's look back at some of the greater moments in the band's history and your history. The album Once Bitten in 1987, the band had tried with Shot in the Dark and had tried with these other albums, but that one seemed to have changed everything for you. Was it just good timing that the scene was exploding, or what do you think propelled that album and made it stand out from what you had done before that?
I just think it's a collection of great songs. They were really great tunes. I mean, Rock Me, for me, is the quintessential Great White song. I think it will always represent the band very proudly. Save Your Love, what a great tune. There was just so many good songs in there. You just couldn't deny the band. You say, look, you had to say, yeah, these guys have something going on. And Mark's guitar playing and my vocals and everything else put together just, at that time made for a really great sound.
Yeah, it really was a great album. Now, but the other thing is, though, is that you never really felt, what I mean, not felt, but fit into the whole hair metal thing because it was more of a blues-based sound. Was that sort of strange for you to all of a sudden have to do up the hair and get sort of glitzy looking? That wasn't really what the band was about?
No, just kind of like the clothes and stuff was just like, I don't know how we fell into all that. I guess, we were going to get our stuff made by everybody that was getting their stuff made from Ray Brown, and pretty soon we all started to look like the same band. You could have took any of us and interchanged them with somebody else's band. And, yeah, it was, for me, if I was to look back and just change the look of the band, I'd just have a long sleeve shirt on and some jeans, you know? But
Or,
that's not what it was, back then. I mean, people wanted more than that.
and
They wanted,
you certainly gave it to them. Another thing about that album is one of the writers on there was your manager, Alan Niven.
correct.
Um, how important was he to the sound? Because you don't normally see a manager uh, on writing credits. So how important was he in sort of making "Rock Me Be Rock Me" or "All Over Now Be All Over Now"? Was that
I think very important. He had a lot of influence on the band. He was a very good songwriter and, a very good lyricist, and we wrote a lot of great songs together. He's, as far as I know, he's still doing that, with his own thing or his girlfriend's thing or something. I don't really know. We don't keep in contact.
okay? It was, and I want to ask you about that too, because there was that whole Guns N' Roses thing, and I remember growing up at that time seeing it seemed as though the bands were on different trajectories. Did management, not necessarily Alan, but did management sort of abandon you to go and take care of Guns N' Roses, or did you feel that maybe, hey, why aren't you looking at us a bit more?
No, to be honest with you, he was very, very, actually, I think the Guns N' Roses thing was cool for him, but Great White was always like his baby, And, I never felt like threatened or like he was paying more attention to them, even though sometimes he had to because they were making more money, and he had to go, kind of nurse that. But, no, he was always there for me in the band. I could call him whenever I wanted to, and he'd answer and call me back. It wasn't like I ever had a problem getting a hold of him or talking to him about something personal. We were really very good friends for a long time. Listen.
Right. A couple of years ago, you mentioned that you'd be making a documentary film, and I haven't heard you speak about it recently. Are you still in the process of making a documentary?
Yeah, there's something being done, and I don't know when it's going to come out. I don't even know much about it at this point, but I assume. I mean, I don't really know, to be honest with you.
Right.
I don't know what happened with that.
Is that something that you would? Is that something that you want to be fully involved in with filling in the details and writing or where do you see your role in the documentary?
I don't really have anything going on right now, to be honest with you. I don't. We started something, and right now we're just kind of like in hold.
All right, that sounds good. So you've got these shows coming up. Talk to me about touring these days. As we both get older,
Yeah.
shoulders start to hurt, neck starts to hurt. Right? Are you doing anything in particular to stay in top shape, to keep the throat, to keep the voice? Because without it, right, there goes the paycheck.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, I've been doing the same routine for many, many years as far as warming up my voice, and it's worked for since 1983. I've been doing it, so I keep doing that. I start warming up like 6 hours before the show, just gradually with scales warming up, and after the show I warm down, and I try to just not talk too much or. I've actually got myself to where I'm not singing all day. I used to be a horrible habit of mine. I start warming up and I keep checking my voice. And I always go for like the highest notes. And then by the time I get to the show, I'd be tired and like, why is my voice so tired? I've been warming up all day. So I had to sort of got smart and go, okay, look, let's just not talk between the warm-ups. Let's just keep it quiet. And this works out really great.
Yeah, it really has. And hopefully we'll see you in Canada soon. I know a bar up here in Ottawa and in Toronto have been trying to get you, so I hope they can, seal that deal and get you up here. Looking back on the career, what are some of the highlights for you? What's those like sort of one or two moments where you go, yeah, we were on top of the world here, or I was on top of the world, and then conversely, what were some of the moments where you went, holy shit, man, what the hell was that? Let's start with the positive one first.
Well, I mean, God, there was a night we played at Irvine Meadows down here in California, and we sold it out. It was like 18,000. And, my parents came down. I had my parents come down in a limousine and brought them down with my son. And they were standing backstage. And my dad was just beaming, while we're playing for all these people. And that was a great night. And then there was a great night in Schweinfurt, Germany, for like 69,000 people. And it was just nothing but a sea of faces. And it was, you stand and look back and all you can see is heads. And it was just an amazing experience. And I've got some photos from behind the stage. And it still just makes me smile. I'm like, wow, we've done bigger shows than that even. It's just there's been a lot of great memories. I could go through a bunch of them, and they'll be in the book, when that comes out. But some worse ones. Well, clearly, when I fell on stage and shattered my femur, which led to the end of the band, as it was, and hurting myself and things like that. But I've got my place back in line, so to speak, and everything's going well.
Yeah. So and then you mentioned the book actually, which I had forgot to mention. When do you think this book will be finished, and is it going to be sort of warts and all, tell all, or do you have to somewhat be careful?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, you know what? I'm just dumping everything in this book, and there might be a couple of lawsuits out of it, I would imagine. I'm going to have my lawyers check it out before I release it. But, I mean, I don't really think that's going to happen. But, I mean, because the book's about myself, and what I've gotten up to, not so much about other people, But, I mean, there are going to be spots in it where somebody might raise an eyebrow and go, it's gonna make some people upset, but I think it'll make more people laugh. So, if you're the butt of the joke, that's just the way it goes.
Yeah, and when do you think this will be available, or when do you think you might have it ready for public consumption?
I'm hoping the end of next year or early next year. Same timeline.
Okay, so about the same as the album.
That's what I'm hoping. That's what I'm trying to do.
The last solo album you did was For You in 2002. Is there a point where you want to get away from the band and do more solo music, or was that just an experiment and we're done with that, now it's band only?
I don't know. I mean, right now, I don't have the need to do that. I'm really concentrating on, what we're doing now and focusing on that. I haven't written enough with my guitarist, Robbie Lochner, to feel like I need to go out on my own and write with some other people. I mean, this is where it's a whole new experience for me, so it's great. I mean, fortunately, the writing process with Robbie has been just wonderful. We clicked from the very beginning, and it was easy. It was really easy to write. He knew the direction I wanted to go, and we just went. The songs are, it's I can't say enough about it. And of course, everybody wants to say how cute their kid is. And some people are like, oh my God, he's the ugliest thing I've ever seen. So you never know. But I mean, for me, I have a pretty John Q. Public ear. I always have, and I can tell a decent song from a great song or a bad song. And there's a lot of really, really, really good material on this record that I'm very proud of, and I think the fans are really going to like it. And it sounds like Great White.
Well, you're the voice. And I'll finish with this. I'll ask you about two releases. We'll start off with Great White's Sail Away, an album which I absolutely loved. and it just didn't go. It didn't sell as well as I would have hoped.
No.
Were you proud of that album? I mean, do you think that was a good album that just sort of got overlooked by the times, or would you have gone back and said, "Hey, man, we needed more rock on this, or we needed more metal"?
Yeah,
on it?
I would have myself. I would have made a rock album instead of a wannabe Eagles. That was our manager's vision, as a producer, and I wouldn't have done it that way. I think it should have been more like an Aerosmith record. You had those types of songs, that swingy, bluesy, swingy thing, and it would have fit real well with a heavier production. But I still love the album. I'm still very proud of it. I just would have liked to see something different be done to it.
Right.
But I mean, "Sail Away" to me is just a beautiful tune, and I couldn't see that being made any different than it was.
No, it was a great album, I thought, but it just got overlooked. And then, of course, the band over the years, MTV Unplugged, and there was a Zeppelin tribute. You had done some Zeppelin shows, and it came out as a Great Zeppelin, the tribute to Led Zeppelin. What is it about that band that just gets you so wound up and good to go? What does Led Zeppelin mean to you?
That was the first band I ever really, really, really started to idolize, and I could sing it really well. For some reason, his voice was easy to emulate for me. And I always liked that, and people got a kick out of it. So eventually, I was doing a lot of Zeppelin stuff. People wanted to hear me sing Zeppelin. I'll sing some Zeppelin. Come on, this guy sounds just like him, And that was a reputation I had as a young man, as being 17, 16 years old. And so when we started the band with Mark, that was what the catalyst that got him to start calling me, because he told me, he was saying, a friend of ours, a mutual friend, called him and said, "Yeah, this kid sings Zeppelin really great, man." So Mark started calling me over and over again, and I finally acquiesced to his request to go audition with him, and the band was okay, but I said, "Well, I want to go original," and he said, "Okay, well, I do too." And he goes, he played me some songs, and I was like, "These are monstrous." And so I said, "Well, okay, tell you what, you quit your band, I'll quit mine, and we'll make our own band." He's like, "Okay, cool." So we did, and that was how it started.
Yeah, it turned out pretty well. Now, I wasn't going to mention other band members, but you did mention Mark a couple of times. Exceptionally underrated guitarist.
Yeah.
If I can, what is your impressions of Mark just as a player? I mean, forget lawsuits and forget all that, but just as a guitar player, I mean, he really is awesome.
I think he's underrated. I think he's always had a really good, and this will be argued by people forever, whatever, and I don't understand it, but the guy's got a great sense of melody. He knows when to play and when not to play. He writes themes that just get stuck in your head. Just the scales he plays and stuff, they're always to the point for me, and they've always fit perfectly. I think he puts thought into every note he plays, and that's just my opinion and my perception. I haven't heard what he's done lately, but I know that when we were writing together and doing stuff, that's what I always liked about his playing, is I could listen to it like it was a melody line.
I can hear that, and you two certainly did make magic together, and there you go, Jack. Thank you for your time, and I'm very much looking forward to the new album. And
thank you.
The sooner it comes out, the better.
Yeah, I agree. I appreciate your time, Mitch. It's good talking to you. It's been way too long.
Yeah, way too long, and get up here to Ottawa and Toronto, and if you need any help doing it, just have somebody send me an email, and I'll help you get it done, because it's got to happen. I got to see.
That sounds good, man. I'd love to get up there. So I'll tell you what, when I hang up, I'll after I get out of bed, I'll put that in motion.
Thank you, sir, and we'll talk again, hopefully a lot sooner than the last 3 or 4 years.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, Jack.
Thank you, Mitch.
Cheers.
Bye.
And there you have it, folks, my interview with Jack Russell. Lots of great stuff coming from him, a new album and a new book, so keep your eyes and ears peeled for that stuff. Let's head over to Blues Hall of Fame guitarist Joe Louis Walker. Everybody Wants a Piece is the name of the new album. We talk about that. We talk about Paul Nelson, Johnny Winter, John Lee Hooker, and, of course, Jimi Hendrix. And so, without further ado, here is Joe Louis Walker. We are speaking with Joe Louis Walker. The new album is Everybody Wants a Piece. Pleasure to speak to you, Joe.
You too. It's great. Thank you for having me.
Yes, so let's get right into this. Everybody Wants a Piece is your 24th solo album. Let's just talk with it. What keeps you making albums?
Well, I mean, it's what makes a fisherman keep going fishing. He likes it. I mean, music is my form of expression, and it's something that I love to do. And when you love to do something, you keep wanting to do it, and you keep wanting to push yourself and see what you can do unique to your muse, so to speak.
Right. So, talk to me a little bit also about how the music business has changed for you, because, when you think of pop music or rock music, the marketplace is there. Is blues easier to make a living in, or has it become more and more difficult?
Well, I think, there's obstacles are always presented no matter what time in history you are in music or whatever art you're in. You can compare yourself to someone else's success or someone else's failure, and you can look at the glass half empty or half full. It's like the adversity that I would have would be nothing, absolutely a drop in the bucket compared to the adversity Louis Armstrong had, or Robert Johnson, or B.B. King, or people like that. So I tend to, when it comes to an issue such as the difficulties of what stands in the way nowadays in music, there's just to list the number of things. The internet is sort of a blessing and a curse in all things, and with music you got to put a big asterisk by it, because if you wanted to support farmers, and the farmer came to market with lettuce, tomatoes, and peas, and you want to have those staples in your diet, would you just go to the farmer's place and start taking his lettuce, tomatoes, and peas, or would you buy it? In the music industry now, as you know, and everybody else knows, you can get any number of things for free, yet still it costs me money to make a record. It costs me money to pay the musicians, the studio, blah, 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 on and on and on. So that's a huge obstacle. There's also the situation of streaming. Streaming is something that the musicians don't take part in the revenues of it. So you'll have someone like just to give you an example, a young man like Pharrell in the music business who has 23 million streams of that song Happy, and he gets a check for $1,000. Well, somebody got paid, and it sure as hell wasn't Pharrell. Right. You can just trickle that on down to the blues. And also with the blues, there's another issue, whereas I can't make a heavy metal record and think I'm going to compete with Metallica or someone like that, because I'm not going to get promoted like Metallica. But Metallica can find their blues roots, if they've got them, and make a blues record and sell 1/10 of what they know, 1% of what they normally sell, and have a blues hit. So that's an issue, and so there's all these sort of peripheral issues, and not to mention the hard times that clubs are having, and just those type of issues. And just to be quite honest, everybody and their mother is a blues guitar player now. And their point of reference may be someone like what turned you on to the blues? Somebody will say, well, Eric Clapton and Stevie Ray Vaughan, and that's great. and you'll have a million kids trying to play like Stevie Ray, trying to play like Albert King. And so, when you've been in the trenches as long as me, you say, oh, wow, well, that's interesting. But then when you find out that you're on a festival with a kid that just picked up a guitar 3-4 years ago, and they're making 3 times as much as you are, and you have a long history of doing it, you sort of feel slighted. But you can't sit around and say, woe is me. So you have to, put your nose to the grindstone and keep doing what you do and hope and do all that you can to differentiate yourself from the pack, and also be true to what you do, and hope that that there's an audience for that. And once you start feeling sorry for yourself, just go back to someone like Van Gogh, who who basically never sold a painting, and you see now where his paintings are for $1 trillion or some obscene amount, and I think that he didn't get 1 penny of it, and that he went to his grave pretty much thinking that he was a failure, and there's that element of it, and so you just really have to. With blues, take all those things into consideration and realize that, like B.B. King said, playing blues is like being black twice.
Yeah, right.
And
exactly.
That's just the honest way of putting it.
Let me ask you about that, because you mentioned the streaming. How is it different from, let's say, the 70s and 80s where you got your single on radio? Because radio wasn't sending you thousands of dollars either. You could probably get, 100 spins at a New York station and get what, 80 cents residual? How is the streaming different from the radio model of years ago?
Well, I think streaming is different because at least with the 100 spins, you got paid. With streaming, you very rarely get paid. I mean, just think about it. 20 million streams of a song, and you get paid $1,000 or $1,900. That's not getting paid.
No,
Somebody got paid.
Somebody got
paid.
Spotify
says that they sent X amounts of hundreds of thousands, or I don't know how much money to the record companies, and the record companies didn't disperse the funds to the artists. Well, the record companies are smart. They don't include artists on streaming, and the streaming companies say, well, we got it from the record labels, and it's to the record labels to dispense the money to the artist. Well, the artist is stuck sort of in a catch-22 there. Whereas when you have people spinning records and things of this nature, there was a trajectory for the person who made the music. Of course, the record companies, the publishing companies, managers, blah blah blah, are going to get their money, but at least you got something. With streaming, it's just a great the great black hole.
Yeah, I mean, because streaming to me is sort of an exciting medium. Though I prefer to buy CDs, and I actually have your CD, which is great because I can't stand having just files on the computer. It drives me crazy. But I'm just wondering where the model is broken, because at some point you got to think it can't be the companies. It's got to be the record contracts where people just didn't account for that digital media. But there you go. Let's talk about you, though. 2013, inducted to the Blues Music Hall of Fame. Tell me about that, and what does that mean to you?
Well, the Blues Music Hall of Fame, sanctioned by the premier blues organization, the Blues Foundation out of Memphis, Tennessee, which used to be, they call it the Blues Music Association, the awards, which used to be the W.C. Handy Awards, is probably the best way I could explain it is the Grammys of blues music. They have all kind of other blues Hall of Fames, but the one that is in Memphis is the one that's the prototype, the model for it. And in that Hall of Fame, you have everybody from Robert Johnson to B.B. King to John Mayall, who was inducted this May the 5th. May 4th, and so it's a real I say honor in the context that these are the people who select you for this award are the cognoscente of the blues community. So in that context, it was a huge honor, and in another context, to be put in the Hall of Fame while I was still alive is another huge honor. And another element for me is that the blues that I play it encompasses different genres that I grew up listening to. Some might have elements of blues, jazz, and gospel, and rock and funk, and a lot of things that I grew up with. And so it's a composite of my musical education. So the one thing I like about it was that I was able to get in the Blues Hall of Fame for being me. For being me, and that to me is more important than anything, and that's why I'm really grateful to be in the Blues Hall of Fame.
Yeah, that's a great place to be. So let's get back to Everybody Wants a Piece. It was produced by Paul Nelson, who of course was guitarist with Johnny Winter. I mentioned before you're onto your 24th album. Why is it still important for you at this point to have a producer? Why not just go in there yourself and say, "Hey, I know what I want," and more drum here, more. Why do you need Paul in there, and what does he bring to the table?
Well, I mean, every record I've done, I've sort of helped co-produce it, and some of them I produced myself. I think the main reason for me is that sometimes you can be too close to a project, and if you're too close to it, it's hard for you to say, "Hey, man, okay, there's a mistake there, but boy, it sure sounds great." Or there's something that we hadn't planned on, or this the keyboard played a nice little riff there that wasn't in the song, and hey, but let's keep it because it's taking us in another direction. It flushed something else out of the song. Well, I just having the producer to come early and stay late, so to speak, and deal with it frees me up to really just write, play, get the best performance in the studio out of myself and the musicians, and to really just be the artist. I've wore both hats, and it's okay, but sometimes you just you want to be freed up to just to try this and try that and try this and try that and have somebody else try to make it work, and with Paul Nelson, him being a Johnny's guitar player and for years, and Johnny's manager also for years, and literally a one-man crusade to bring Johnny Winters back to the stature that he deserved before he passed away. Was a major accomplishment because I've known Johnny a long time, Winter, and for Paul to culminate that with Johnny getting with their record winning the Grammy in step with all the different artists paying homage to Johnny, I thought was a just a feat of major accomplishment. And so when Paul approached me about producing it, and we got together, and it worked, and it's from a guitar player's point of view, it's nice to have a guitar player, go over guitar sounds with you. Me personally, I'm not crazy about albums where all the guitars sound the same on a record. I know there's great musicians who name their guitars after things. B.B. King and Lucille, Albert King and Lucy, Stevie Ray Vaughan when his guitar, Lenny, on and on and on and on. But to me, a guitar's sound is like a paintbrush. For a different song, a different picture, you might want a different color. And so that's the way I look at guitars in relation to songs. Guitar is there as well as guitar solos to fit the song, not the other way around. So in that context, it's nice to be able to have someone like Jimi Hendrix had the great producer that he had, who they sat around for hours coming up with great guitar sounds, and the Beatles had someone like George Martin. Once they got the right person, they just stuck with the right person. I mean, can you imagine, anybody imagine what it would have been like if they didn't have George Martin as the producer, who sat around and let these guys come in with every idea in the kitchen sink and spend time to try to make them work, not to tell you what you can't do, but to say, okay, it's like that Robert Kennedy saying, I believe it was, some people look at things and say and say it can't be done. I look at things and say, how can it be done? And so I like that sort of mindset.
Yeah, and I got to say, I'm always somewhat weary of self-produced albums. They end up being self-indulgent albums, and so it's nice to get Paul in there. You mentioned Jimi Hendrix. You, of course, worked with him at some point. Tell me a little bit about that experience, and obviously you were a lot younger when that was going on. What was it like, just sort of looking at him and seeing his finger work, and just what was it like being with Jimmy?
Well, I got to be honest. I met Jimi Hendrix through a drummer who was playing with a guy I was living with for a while. I was living with a guy named Mike Bloomfield, and Mike quit playing with a band called Butterfield Blues Band, and he was starting a group called Electric Flag, sort of super all-American, horn-driven, all-Americana group. And so when he brought some of those guys out from different points all over the United States, some of them didn't know too many people. So Michael had me hang out with Buddy Miles and go to a theater and practice with Buddy every day just to keep his chops up and, hang out with him and stuff. And so, but Buddy was always telling me about this guy, Jimi Hendrix, so when Jimi Hendrix sort of hit, 67, I think Buddy threw a party for him, 67, and he threw the party at his house. And, at the party was Bloomfield, Sly Stone, different guys who would live in the area. So, to be quite honest, Jimi Hendrix wasn't the only star in the room. So, but, I mean, it was just interesting. What I liked about him was that I was in the Bay Area when the hippie thing, before it got there and when it was there and after it left. And to me, the face for love, peace, love, and happiness and all that was Jimi Hendrix, because I think he was like that irregardless of the whole hippie area. I think he was, a loving, caring sort of, Renaissance, Nouveau, hippie, guy that broke down a lot of barriers. He was just all those things encompassed in who he was. It wasn't a persona. It wasn't a movement. He was that type of a person naturally. So when all that social movement came along, he fit it perfectly to a T, better than anyone. So to me, that's what I liked about him. And he was a soft-spoken guy and always noodling on the guitar. He always had a guitar and tape recorder. Always, soft-spoken, always positive, always nice. I mean, even with all the stuff that I'm sure he was going through, and we learned later that he was going through a lot of stuff. Woo, man! I mean, I was just looking last night at they went back and looked at the inquest into his death and all the questionable things that had happened to him, and just it was just amazing that he lived his, him predicting his death, on and on and on and on. I mean, he was just, I've seen the music business take some of the nicest people I know, some of the most influential people I know, and just make it so they didn't even want to play music anymore. And I think they did that with Jimmy.
Yeah, it really is the only industry where eating their young is part of the business model. I interviewed George Thorogood about 2 weeks ago, and we spoke about John Lee Hooker and the importance of him in George's life. You got to play with John Lee Hooker. What did he mean to you, and what was it like to be around sort of, the godfather of the whole blues thing?
Well, he was one of the godfathers. I mean, he wasn't the only one. I played with his cousin.
Of course.
Yeah, I played with his cousin, Earl Hooker, who was, which is probably a guitar player. I've been around Muddy and Wolf. Willie Dixon was a very, very, very good mentor of mine. B.B. King, Freddie King, Albert King, all of them. And I think the one thing about Hooker that I liked more than anything about John Lee was that I just never seen him worry about what the music business was going to do, what trend it was taking, what his Facebook numbers were. I mean, who was going to play with him, which guest artist was going, which big star was going to be on. He just never ever acquiesced to the trends in music. He just stayed John Lee Hooker, and I never seen him get super ambitious, get super worried, get super crying. I mean, he just never ever bought into the treadmill that they tend to put musicians on. I never seen him compare himself with anybody, compete with anybody. I just, he was one of those, I always call him like a duck. Any problems just rolled off Hooker's back.
Yeah, he was something unique and special. Joe, great pleasure speaking with you today. The album, of course, is Everybody Wants a Piece. Great album, and thank you for the chat today.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you, Joe.
Take care.
Bye-bye. And there you have it, folks. My interview with Joe Louis Walker. The new album is Everybody Wants a Piece. Big thank you to Joe and Jack for being part of the episode. Head over to Twitter and check me out at Mitch Lafon, MITCHLAFON, and on Facebook, One-on-One Mitch Lafon. Thank you all for listening, and that's it. Bye for now. Oh my.